Hello everybody, so here's Black Angel again, and I'm here with the answer to a question that has been never asked. Anyway, I can see that there's some movement about this topic also in the community, so I think it's interesting to talk about it. So the question, as you can see from the title, is can you develop your auxiliary function? My personal answer is no. But to answer that, I'm going to tell you a little story and explain you a couple of things so that you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to start very general, and then I'm going to go a little bit more specific and technique into the functions. So, this kind of thought, this question that raised in my mind, raised about 2.5 years ago. Anyway, the day that I first entered the university. This question kind of rised in my mind, and that's because I first met this blonde little guy that is awesome, and we're not friends. We don't talk much. We actually exchanged a couple of words a few times, well, anyway. So I first met this little guy. There was a bunch of people, actually, a little group of quite cohesive. Hang on, I'm having, okay. I thought there was a problem. Anyway, yeah, there's this group of quite cohesive, well, united people. They look united from the outside, at least, but I don't really trust groups very much. Anyway, I spotted two guys in this group after a while, and one was an ESTP. The hottest ESTP, probably. Not the hottest because there's someone else that to me is hottest, but you know what I mean. And the other one was my same type. I'm not going to say anything about the type, but the other guy was my same type. Every type has a crush on ESTPs, except from INFPs. Anyway, yeah. I now know why that happens, and we're talking about it in another video. Anyway, yeah, so back to this little guy. I noticed him, and I realized for the first time in my life that this person does roughly the same things I do, and ends up with taking the same decisions I take, but with huge differences. And the first difference that I noticed between us is his level and capability in socializing. That made it clear that he must be the other subtype of my type, as referred to in socionics. So I have more difficulties in socializing. It's not impossible for me. It's actually very possible. And a lot of people actually like me. Well, most people I meet try to approach me and actually like me. But I'm not very sociable myself. I always end up kind of doing a mess deliberately so that I can get away from the situation or something like that. Anyway, yeah, I did have some group experiences, but not for me. And if you had met me when I was 20, you would have said that it wouldn't have ended up that way. Yeah, my group experiences never lasted longer than about a year, just to be clear. And this little guy instead is in this group, and he has been in this group for like 3 years now. And I'm like, oh, okay, now that's a quite relevant difference. And that's actually about the auxiliary function. So I have been thinking all this time, well, if we are given this set of assets, let's say this 4 or 8, as you want to look at it, set of asset of weapons, and we are skilled in the first weapon, why cannot we become stronger in the second one? It seems logic that if you have an asset of weapons in your arsenal, you can strengthen those that you require. And that's actually what Jung was meaning to do when he first thought about the functions. He wanted to use the function system to help people develop other functions. But he was quite strict about the impossibility to actually change type. And that's funny because I didn't know why. But he was right. And I realized over these years that there is a very, 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 very good reason why that is not going to happen. It's not even possible to change subtype. And that's because the other functions in your stack are going to get in the way. I personally apply the socionics when I'm going to look into those functions that are not part of the MBTI type, because I don't think all the other theories about supposed subconscious functions and their order are of any use. And I have seen socionics actually work, so why not look at something that works and rather look for something else? Anyway, yeah, the point I'm trying to make here is that the subconscious functions, so those functions that are not valued, are going to get in the way of the development of your valued functions. Because valued and unvalued doesn't mean that you don't use the function or that you use the function. Valid means that you give it importance. Unvalid means that you have some sort of fight with it. But in some way, you're still using the function. And that you're rejecting it with all your strengths, or that you are actually embracing it with all of your being, you are in some way using the function. What happens with the auxiliary function, and now we're going a little bit more specific about things. With the auxiliary function, what happens is that the so-called vulnerable function in socionics is going to get in the way of the development of your auxiliary function. Now, I realized that looking at this little guy running around in every direction and being adorable in so many ways, every time I see him, I'm like, I feel the urge to slap that guy in the face. And that's with an affectionate kind of feeling. And I have no clue what he thinks about me. Anyway, yeah, first of all, I'm going to introduce something that doesn't have a lot to do with this topic, but that will help you understand. So when I talked to him those few times that we exchanged some words, what I realized was that he wasn't finishing my thoughts, he wasn't finishing my sentences, but he was following my trail of thoughts as if it were his own, as I was following his trail of thought as if it were my own. And the answer he provided were exactly the answer I would have given myself if I had been in his place, and vice versa. And I could see it in his face. When he talks to me, he's kind of always super surprised by what I'm doing, and he's much more expressive than I am. And yeah, this is important because it tells us something about differences and similarities. So this guy's super sociable, he's more expressive than I am. And those of you who have been following me for quite a while will know that I have a sort of truce with my facial expressions. Anyway, and not a negative thing, just something I need to understand about myself. And yeah, so this guy is like a beta version of me in some ways. And I'm like, what the hell? Why can't he have a social life like that, whereas I don't even desire it? And that's because of the vulnerable function. Because whenever you try to explore your auxiliary function, you have to keep into account that it's the other side of the coin of your greatest weakness. For example, if you wanted to grow introverted intuition as an auxiliary function, because you want to become the other subtype, the one that you believe is a beta version of you, and and you think you have a very weak introverted intuition, you will have to hit the wall of introverted sensing, because the two functions are the same side of the coin, are the two sides of the same coin. Introverted sensing is a very deep and very strong understanding of your physical sensations, and a very great awareness of your physical sensations. Whereas introverted intuition is a very strong understanding and awareness of your psychological and cognitive situation. We're talking about state of mind. So introverted intuition is an amplified awareness of your state of mind and other people's state of mind, whereas introverted sensing is an amplified awareness of your physical sensation and other people's sensation, same sides of the two sides of the same coin. So what happens is that whenever you try to develop your introverted intuition with meditation or whatever other tool you might use, you're going to slap into introverted sensing. And as your greatest weakness, introverted sensing will push you away from that thing that you're doing that is going to help you grow that function. So what happens basically is that the balance is restored. So because when you're going to make 3 steps forward, then your vulnerable function is going to kick in and you're going to make a rush stop. So the function is going to be grown and you will have to fix the problem through your first function that is going to grow stronger. And automatically you're going to seek help with your middle and inferior function because you feel so bad. And through that help, those functions are going to grow too, and the balance is restored. So you probably can grow as a person trying to develop your auxiliary function, but you're not going to grow the function itself. And at that point, I started wondering, why do some people have a stronger auxiliary function and why do some people have a weaker auxiliary function? And I think the answer is rather fixed in our desires and our personal experience. So nature and nurture, a mix of nature and nurture. And nature meaning we have specific desires or specific ways of being. For example, I have been born with an inclination towards studying. But someone else with my same type, like for example this little guy, might be born with a stronger inclination towards socializing despite liking studying. Or maybe he doesn't even like studying, I don't know. But anyway, I think it's about inclinations. And the other side of the coin is the environment that surrounds you. So maybe he's surrounded with more of that function than I am, and therefore he had a better chance to develop it without encountering its vulnerable function. But anyway, yeah, I wanted to make another example. Introverted thinking. It is very difficult to actually pinpoint which parts of your mind belong to introverted thinking and which parts of your mind belong to introverted feeling. The only help you have is the name of introverted feeling, which is feeling. So it's whatever is revolving around introverted feeling is going to be some sort of feeling of some sort. But thoughts oftentimes look like feelings or are based on feelings. And also feelings oftentimes are based on thoughts. So splitting the two things within your mind is going to be extremely different because one is going to be the other side of the coin of the other. So if you are, for example, an FI auxiliary, let's say this, you're an FI auxiliary and you want to develop your sense of attraction, repulsion, your judgment about others, and whatever the case may be, you're going to slap with your own opinion. You're going to slap your face into your opinions, your literal categorizations that are going to exist in a TI vulnerable too. And whenever this kind of person slaps into their own categorization, they can automatically emit and issue a judgment about themselves. So that's going to pull them back. And that's actually something I consider very, very interesting. But the most difficult functions are sociable functions, in my opinion. Most difficult, I mean, not to, well, every person has their difficulties, and what is difficult to them is difficult for them, and that's not even. The most difficult to figure out, understand, and see how they work are the sociable functions. Like, if you want to develop extroverted thinking, it means that you're going to focus a lot on public opinion. So you're going to merge with, or try to merge with, public opinion. But when you try to merge with public opinion, you're going to be slapped in the face with emotional contagion. So every time you try to follow public opinion, you're going to see another wave of stuff coming from the other side that tells you have to feel that way in that environment to join that sense. Public opinion thing, because in some way in society things are very balanced, and there is no one thing without the other. So if you are on the other side an extrovert feeling type, you're going to have difficulties in society. Extroverted feeling auxiliary type, you're probably going to have difficulties in society, because every time you try to join that emotional contagion, so everybody, the general atmosphere, like having fun with everybody else and joining the fun, you're going to have to slap with public opinion. What the hell does this mean? We're being so abstract. What is this girl even talking about? So everybody thinks that short trousers are in and are great, and if you wear instead combat boots, you're out. Fashion. Everybody thinks you have to dislike Justin Bieber, and everybody thinks that you have to hate metal music. We're talking about a specific group of people, obviously. I don't have anyone in mind, but I'm building this in my head. So in that kind of environment, if you want to join in, you will have to, at least on the surface, embrace those things. But if you are an extrovert feeling auxiliary, whenever you enter in contact with that kind of things, you're going to look at others and go like, why the hell would I want to do that? So if I like songs by Justin Bieber, I'm gonna listen to songs by Justin Bieber, and why do I have to tell you that I don't like it? Or, well, I like wearing combat boots. What the hell of a problem do you have with what I'm wearing? And oh my god, I do love metal music, and why would I want to tell you that I do not? That's simply a lie that doesn't make any fucking sense. If I have to lie to you, I will rather lie to you about more important things. And that's going to create a clash within the environment, within the group, with you and the group. And that's going to happen because the group is not going to accept your rebellion. They're not going to understand it. They're not going to embrace it. So for some time, you're going to be the renegade, and then at some point, you're out. And I suppose something similar can happen to extrovert thinking auxiliaries, because when they enter that group, they're going to be like, oh my god, I hate comic books. Oh my god, I hate Justin Bieber. Oh my god, I don't want to hear anything about metal music. And oh my god, I love this short trousers so much that you cannot even imagine. So that's the extrovert thinker when they enter a group. Then everybody's happy about something that, for example, someone got a degree and they're all happy because of this, and they're all being joyous and rejoicing, but this guy has a problem at work and he keeps being on his phone. And oh yeah, I'm happy about that. And he keeps going that way. The group is going to be very angry at this guy. And it's going to create a clash in which the group is going to say, well, the guy there is extremely selfish. And that actually makes me think of one difference between ESTP and ESTJ that I noticed. And yeah, ESTJs won't ever like what I say, but anyway. The ESTP is cold and distant, and they do not automatically join in the fun. But when you go, like, they could be that guy that looks at the fun, at the amusement with a half smile, but they're keeping it aside. But if you go to them and you, the fuck are you doing? They're going to join the fun immediately and maybe be the tornado that is going to destroy the whole thing with their enthusiasm. Whereas the ESTJ on the other side, the ESTJ is that kind of guy that is going to be on their phone and thinking about their work and if you go tell them, hey, why don't you, that's what you're doing, guy. I'm doing my job. And they're not even going to look at you. Anyway, yeah, they can to an extent join the fun, but they have to really, 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 really want it. And it's not gonna last long. Anyway, yeah, that's something else. But when we're talking about the vulnerable function, like INTJs, for example, or ISTJs, I can see that in my uncle, for example. He's an ISTJ, and he really wants to join the extrovert thinking atmosphere. And he makes a huge effort to join the atmosphere. But the first moment that he makes an extrovert feeling mistake, which happens almost immediately, and the entire family turns against him for not joining in, it's a huge discomfort for him. So that's how those two functions relate to each other. I think those of you and those of us who go through the socionics, especially people like my teacher, I don't like that. I rather call him guru. But anyway, people that are very in-depth about this stuff, but also beginners, we tend to not give enough importance to the correlation between functions and how I deliberately use the statistics term, and their relationships, so to speak, to each other and how they work in a tandem. For example, socionists. If you look into the psionic and you go look about this topic and you find what you're looking for, because there's bolts of stuff. But well, if you find about this topic, you're going to find out that there's been a lot of studies about the correlation and behavior of the vulnerable function with the leading function, with the dominant function. Because they said, and they assumed, and they actually proved that the vulnerable function also gets in the way of the program of the first function. I'm still thinking about that, honestly. But I can see the point. The vulnerable function is an opposite sign to your dominant. So, for example, an INFJ is going to have introverted intuition, which is introverted, and extroverted thinking as a vulnerable function, which is the opposite sign, extroverted. So, in order to develop the extroverted function, you would have to give up the introverted asset of your mind as an INFJ, or vice versa. And an ENTP that has extroverted intuition has the same intuitive approach over the world, whether it's a very... I will talk about extroverted intuition at some point. It's something that takes me a lot of time to elaborate because my mind tends to ignore that about that function. But I'm working on that. Anyway, an ENTP, for example, might have this outlook about the external world and all the possibilities, all the options, all the chances, all the nuances of the world around him. But when it comes to using introverted feelings, so focusing on his feelings, he's got to sacrifice that sense of whatever it is, that immensity that he has and sees around him. So it's like you have this superpower to embrace the whole cosmos and see it split into detail and focus on each and every detail, maybe even 1,000 of them simultaneously. And someone comes to you and tells you, oh, you should think more about your inner feelings. So this guy is going to say, what the fuck are you even talking about? And if he happened to want to do that, then he would have to sacrifice this entire view, like make his whole universe disappear. Because when you introvert, you're not looking outside, and when you extrovert, you're not looking inside. So yeah, it does get in the way, but I don't think it does get in the way as much of the first function as much as it gets in the way of the second function, because it's kind of like that unwanted appendix to something you enjoy. So yeah, as you can see, I often talk about socionics, but my priority is actually to justify the 4 MBTI functions. So this is answering an asked question, and I do this kind of stuff at the end of videos for a reason. Anyway, yeah, because I'm sadistic and I want people to watch the whole video to get something they want. Anyway, I missed my point. Anyway, I said it, what I wanted to say, and so yeah, I kind of said it. I got lost. I got amused and then I got lost. Anyway, yeah, so again, I focus on the 4 valid functions, which is the MBTI cluster. And I use socionics and the 8 functions cluster to understand the 4 functions cluster. So basically socionics is kind of means to an end. And I don't appreciate MBTI 100% for this reason. MBTI looks on the positive traits. Briggs, I think, was the second one. It was Myers and Briggs were kind of mother and daughter or something like that, or anyway, they were in that kind of generational gap kind of relationship. And one of them was for sure an INFP, and it shows in fact that MBTI tends to display only the positive sides of the coin. And for an ESTP or an INFJ or even INTPs, for example, it becomes extremely difficult to follow that trail of thought because ESTPs specifically, they need to focus on the negative side of the coin, not about them, but about the others. Yeah, there's, Anyway, my approach is that kind of risk. That's why you see anywhere in MBTI on the top of the videos and not socionics, because I'm actually talking about MBTI. I'm making a very in-depth description of MBTI through socionics. They're the same thing. They are the same thing, and they stem from the same source, and they're both based on psychological types by Carlian, and they do not display differences. The only difference is that Myers and Briggs did not want to specify about functions, and they did not show what they were saying about functions. They did not personally, and everybody that came afterwards did a mess. Anyway, yeah, I think I will close this here. I only wanted to add this few thoughts at the end. And I hope I gave an idea. I was a little bit disorganized. I'm a little disorganized right now because I'm going through I'm going to make an update video. And I will talk to you about that. Anyway, I will talk to you soon. Bye.